So in this lecture we discussed mesh analysis. Last time we had discussed nodal analysis. Mesh analysis is the second systematic method of solving any type of circuit. We begin with a couple of definitions of what is a loop and a mesh. So a loop in a circuit terminology is any closed path in a circuit. So it starts at one node, goes around a bunch of nodes and branches and comes back to the same node. That's a closed path. A mesh is a loop with no element or node inside it. Alright, so the mesh is the smallest loop possible. There is nothing inside it. There's another term called a planar network. A planar network is a network that can be drawn on a plane with no overlapping branches or elements. Alright, so let's look at examples of planar and non-planar networks. So here is a circuit that is a planar network because no branches overlap each other. At least it can be drawn in a way that no branches overlap each other. Here is an example of a network which is non-planar. Nothing you can do to this circuit such that at least two branches will not overlap each other. Alright, so this is a non-planar network. Now mesh analysis can be applied only to planar networks. It cannot be applied to non-planar networks. Also, by the way, I got these figures from this website. It is a very nice website and it has kind of text forms of lectures on mesh analysis, nodal analysis. So if you find that you're not understanding my lectures very well, then you can look at this website as one resource for understanding some of these analysis methods. Of course, you always have the textbook with you. Okay, so let us look at mesh analysis now. So here is a simple circuit and we will learn mesh analysis using this circuit. Now the beginning of mesh analysis is with circuits that have only resistors and voltage sources, because we are going to apply Kirchhoff's voltage laws. This is the kind of the simplest possible network. So the first thing we do in applying mesh analysis is we draw the circuit such that there are no overlapping branches. Okay, that's the first thing we do. The second thing we do is for each mesh we define what is called as a mesh current. So here of course there are three meshes. So for each mesh we define a current. So I've called them I1, I2 and I3. So this is a current that kind of circulates in this mesh. I2 is the current that circulates here and I3 is a current circulating here. Now notice that a branch that is common between two meshes has a current that is a difference of two mesh currents. Alright, so for this branch, if I define the current to be flowing down, then that current is I1 minus I2 because I2 is flowing up in this branch. And in branches where the branch is not shared between two meshes, the current is simply that mesh current. So in VA and R1, the current is I1 and so on. R5 and VC have a current I3 flowing in this direction. Also, when you define mesh currents, as convention, always define them flowing clockwise. Alright, don't define one current clockwise, one current anti-clockwise. That is not right. That is not mesh analysis then. Then you're going back to your ad hoc methods. To be systematic, these currents have to be defined clockwise. Of course, you can always define all of them to be anti-clockwise, but it as a matter of convention, we will define them as clockwise. Okay, so that's the second thing you do. Once mesh currents are defined, what we do is for each mesh, we write a Kirchhoff's voltage law. Right, the algebraic sum of voltages around a closed path is 0. So we'll apply that to these three meshes. So for mesh 1, let us go through it. And our convention will be that when we are writing KVL, is if the voltage is increasing or going from minus to plus, then that will be a negative voltage. If one voltage is going from plus to minus, it will be a positive voltage. Alright, so for this first mesh, we say minus VA plus this voltage drop, which is I1 R1, plus this voltage drop, which is I1 minus I2 into R2, equal to 0. So that is the first equation. For the second mesh, we will, let's start here. So we'll say we are going up in R2. So the voltage drop is R2 into I2 minus I1, because the voltage drop down is I1 minus I2. The voltage drop up is I2 minus I1, plus R3 times I2 minus VB plus I2 minus I3 into R4. Alright, so that is this equation. And for this mesh, we'll write the voltage drop from in R4 from down to up. So that will be I3 minus I2 into R4 plus R5 I3 and plus VC equal to 0. Alright, so that's the third equation. So now we've got three equations. The unknowns are I1, I2, I3. Okay, so the purpose of mesh analysis is to find mesh currents. So the number of unknowns will be equal to the number of meshes in the circuit. So we have three meshes, we have three equations. We take all the known quantities on the right hand side, which are in this circuit, voltages VA, VB, VC. So they'll go on the other side. We combine all the I1 terms, I2 terms in each equation. So we get a set of equations of this form. Alright, you can check that this is correct. And again, so there are I1, I2, I3, I1, I2, I3, and we can write this as a matrix. So let us write this as a matrix. So this is a matrix, R1 plus R2 minus R2, 0, etc., etc. The three unknown currents, I1, I2, I3, and on the right hand side are the voltages. Alright, again, like nodal analysis, there is a symmetry, there is a structure to this matrix. So let us look at what the structure is. So this is for mesh 1. The first row is for mesh 1, first column is for mesh 1. The diagonal elements are the sum of all the resistances in that mesh. So for the first mesh, there are two resistances, R1 and R2. So both of them appear as plus. Now they appear as plus because of our convention that we took the voltage going from plus to minus as positive. Alright, so that is R1 plus R2. In mesh 2, there are three resistances, R2 plus R3 plus R4. That appears here. In mesh 3, two resistors, R4 plus R5. Between meshes 1 and 2, there is a resistor R2 that is shared by mesh 1 and 2. So that appears here and with a negative sign. Between meshes 1 and 3, there is no resistance, so that is a 0. Between meshes 2 and 3, there is R4, so that's here with a negative sign. And the matrix is symmetric, as was the case in nodal analysis, with only current sources. The unknowns are I1, I2, I3. The right hand side are the voltage sources that appear in each mesh. So the mesh 1 has VA, mesh 2 has VB, mesh 3 has VC with appropriate signs. Alright, and as I said last for node analysis, once we obtain this matrix, you know how to solve it. So I'm not going to spend time solving it. You should be able to solve such matrices. In fact, now I think your calculator perhaps can also solve. So you don't even have to worry about solving it yourself. That is fine. Okay, now let's take some. Okay, so here is a systematic steps of doing mesh analysis with only voltage sources. Okay, so just quickly revising. Draw the circuit with no overlapping branches. Define mesh currents all clockwise. Write KVLs for each mesh. Convert all voltages to mesh currents. So incidentally, I combined these steps 3 and 4 in doing the analysis. You should also be able to do that over a period of time once you get used to solving such circuits, and then solve. It turns out that a planar circuit with n nodes and b branches has B minus N plus 1 meshes. This can be proved. This is a network property. We will not prove it because it is not of great significance for this course. But it's an interesting property of graphs, and circuits are types of graphs. Let us look at an example of a circuit that has current sources and how to handle them in mesh analysis. So here is a circuit that has 3 meshes and there are 2 current sources, 1 voltage source. So let us see what to do. The first thing we notice is that this current is 4 milliamp, and as we saw just now, the current in this branch is the same as the mesh current I2, which means that I2 is equal to 4 milliamps. So we already know the mesh current for this mesh. Therefore, we don't need to write a Kirchhoff's voltage law for this mesh at all. The current is already known. Here there is another current source, but that is between 2 meshes. So let us see how to handle that. So the first thing we do is we'll write 2 mesh equations, one for this mesh and one for this mesh. So we'll say minus 10 plus 1 into I1 minus I2 plus VA, which is the voltage across this current source. So it's a minus 10 plus 1 into I1 minus I2 plus VA equal to 0. Okay, if you are paying attention, you'll see that this is 1 kilo ohm, but I have just written 1 here. I should actually have written 1000. It turns out that in electronic circuits, a lot of the times, the resistances are all in kilo ohms. And if we make the currents in milliamps, then that becomes a consistent system. So the MKS system of units is volt, ampere, ohm. But in electronics, we often use volt, milliampere, kilo ohm. That is also a consistent system because kilo and milli cancel each other. So if all the resistances are in kilo ohms, then we can make all the currents in milliamps, and then we can write only 1, 2, etc. and not make them 1000, 2000. Alright, so we'll do that. I'll do that often. Hopefully you will pick it up very quickly. Okay, so that is this mesh. So for this mesh, we will write, what shall we write? Let's start here. So 1 into I3 minus I2 plus 2 into I3 minus VA equal to 0. So 1 into I3 minus I2 plus 2 I3 minus VA equal to 0. So we have 3 equations and we have 3 unknowns I1, I2, I3, but we've added one more unknown, VA. How much is VA? What is the voltage across a current source? We don't know. The voltage across a current source is not known before we solve the circuit. It is an unknown. So now we have 4 equations, 3 unknowns. We need to add one more equation that we will do in a minute. But before we do that, let us get rid of VA. Alright, so that we end up with one less variable. So we look at these 2 equations. We've written these 2 equations which are for the 2 meshes for which the current source is common. We don't know VA, but the VA appears as plus here and minus here. So we add these 2 equations. If we add these 2 equations, then the term VA goes away and we get this equation which has 4 terms. What is this equation? This equation is actually a KVL written around this loop, which is often called a super mesh because it encloses the current source, and because we are writing the KVL around the loop, we don't encounter the voltage VA at all. So we've got rid of VA. So this is what we do. When we have a current source that exists between 2 meshes, we write a KVL around a super mesh which encloses the current source, and the VA simply does not appear. So you can kind of check that this equation is nothing but the KVL for this super mesh. Alright, so now we have equation 1 which has I2 and equation 4 which has I1, I2, I3. So we have 2 equations but 3 unknowns. What is the third equation? The third equation is the fact that we already know this current. This current is flowing down, so this current is I1 minus I3. So I1 minus I3 we already know is 5 milliamps. So that gives us the third equation. We have three equations, three unknowns. We can solve them. Okay, so that is, I've written that here already. So now you know how to solve. Okay, let's look at a circuit with dependent sources. It's a very simple circuit, but it looks a little tricky. Let us see how to solve this. So we have two meshes. Actually, this is just a short circuit. So it's weird in that sense, but that's okay. The reason this short circuit is important because is that this current IA is the current determining this dependent voltage source. So the value of this voltage source is given to us as Rx times IA. IA is this current, and we are given Rx to be 4 ohms. Alright, but we still do have two meshes. They are actually independent. So we'll write, let's write two mesh equations. So for this mesh, we write minus 36 plus 10 into I1. No voltage drop here, so that is equal to 0. So we can directly solve this for I1, 3.6 amperes. For this mesh, we write 4I2 minus Rx into A. Rx is 4, so minus 4 into IA. I'm sorry. So 4I2 minus 4IA equal to 0. But we need to write IA in terms of mesh currents. How much is IA in terms of mesh currents? It is I1 minus I2. So we say IA is equal to I1 minus I2, and we substitute that here. So we can solve this for I2 because we already know I1. So we get I2 equals something, and we can find IA and everything else about the circuit. Alright, so this is all I'm going to discuss mesh analysis. There are other types of dependent sources, etc. You will solve them in your homework. If you have problems, you come back and we'll discuss them. Okay, let's do a quick comparison of nodal versus mesh analysis. So given a circuit, which one would you use? You know, we've looked at different circuits. We applied both methods to different circuits. You are given a circuit and you are asked, solve it whichever way you want, nodal or mesh. Which one would you choose? The answer, of course, is you look at the circuit and you see how many nodes it has, how many meshes it has. Whichever is the lesser number, you will choose that because the number of equations will be smaller and it will be easier to solve. So that's what you do when you are solving circuits by hand. You would choose the method that requires a smaller number of equations. Of course, this doesn't hold in exams because in exam, I'll give you a circuit, well, exam or whatever assessment we do. If I give you a circuit and say solve it using nodal analysis, you have to solve it using nodal analysis because the purpose of that question would be to test if you have learned nodal analysis. Okay, it turns out that for computer simulators, specifying meshes is extremely difficult. You think about it, how would you specify a mesh? On the other hand, specifying nodes is very trivial, very straightforward, and therefore all circuit simulators in the world use nodal analysis. There are no circuit simulators that use mesh analysis because nodal analysis, from a perspective of describing a circuit to a simulator, is much straightforward. Alright, so that is the end of chapter 4. Next time we'll start chapter 5.